peoples of the worldwide federated internet. What's good? Welcome to this episode of The Thinkening. Got some things on my mind, so I want to get this off. I don't know how many people are familiar with who Janet Yellen is. We're going to get into that. If you don't know who she is, I'm going to get into an article from Business Insider. It was brought to my attention listening to various podcasts, different people have brought it up, that Janet Yellen is proposing a tax on unrealized gains. Now, I'm going to do my best to explain what that means for you, the normal person. How this is being sold is this is a tax on rich investors, when that is not exactly what this is. Would rich investors be included in this tax on unrealized gains? Yeah, absolutely. Here's the one problem. Most people who are rich have teams of lawyers and accountants. Those lawyers and those accountants, they're very familiar with most laws on the books. They figured out ways to circumvent many of these laws, how to get around these laws legally, right? This is not necessarily anything that's shady. They have teams of lawyers, like I said, and accountants that can look through all of the laws, that have time and expertise, and they can figure out how to shift money, what to do with money to escape many of these things. It's one of the reasons why when I hear the term tax the rich, that is such a loaded phrase. And to most people who are uninitiated when it comes to things concerning the economy, it sounds like a good thing. Well, these dudes don't pay their fair share. Tax the rich, right? This sounds good. It appeals to a person's emotional ignorance when it comes to the economy, when it comes to taxes and finances. And that's not a slight to people, because I'm learning things as I get older more about the economy than I ever knew, things that I wish I knew when I was younger. But the bottom line is many of us are ignorant. Some of it is partly due to time. Many people don't have time to look up scores of information and to take their day and, go looking through this article and that article. People are working jobs. People are trying to provide for families. You don't really have time for this, and I understand. So I'm going to take this episode and I'm going to attempt to go over what I believe about Janet Yellen's proposal and why the normal person should be alarmed, because what this is in actuality is removing the normal person's ability to transition through economic levels. And what I mean by that is your ability to go from poor to middle class to an upper middle class and to the 1%. Right now, you can do that. I'm not saying everybody will do that. I'm not saying it's necessarily simple, but right now you can do that in the United States. I'm not going to say this is the only country you can do that in, but you can do that. But I want to get into this, and I want to show you what, like I said, what Janet Yellen is proposing, and why we should all be alarmed and all be paying attention to this. All right, so this is, like I said, an article from Business Insider. And the title of the article, let me scroll down. Excuse me if my computer is a little jumpy. Normally struggles with having, on my laptop, it struggles with having the camera on screen when I have anything else on screen. Okay, I think I got it now. It says, here's how Janet Yellen's proposed tax on unrealized capital gains may work. Okay, so Janet Yellen, if you don't know, is the U.S. Treasury Secretary. And it says U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has proposed a tax on unrealized capital gains of billionaires. You see that language of billionaires? You see, often what's done is in many of these pushes to do things, they pull on emotional ignorance. Your emotions are going to get you riled up when you think billionaires, especially if you're poor, right? You're not thinking that, hey, one of these days I have the ability to exit the station that I'm in and to transition into that billionaire class. You're not really thinking that. All you're thinking is, yeah, these dudes have maximum income, maximum money, and what do I have? I don't have much of anything. Yeah, tax their unrealized gains. Not really understanding maybe what that means, not thinking about what that means. But I argue that there's a more nefarious motive in this, a very huge nefarious motive. All right, it's going to explain sort of, or not, it is going to explain what unrealized gains are. Let me try to get this. All right, it says the unsold wealth of the super rich are often transferred to their heirs eventually, um when they are sold. Excuse me, this thing is jumping around crazy. See, it went to another article. I don't even know why it did that. Now I have to go back to the original article I was on. The woes of computers sometimes. Okay, so it says the unsold wealth of the super rich are often transferred to heirs, and eventually, when they are sold, they yield very little tax. Now, again, pulling on your emotional heartstrings, they're talking about this wealth that they pass on to their heirs. Well, in my opinion, there should be nothing wrong with that. If I designed a company, or if I developed a company, designed widgets, I became a millionaire, and I passed this company and the wealth that came attached with this company to my children and my heirs, there should be nothing wrong with that. It's called generational wealth. An attack on generational wealth should alarm anyone because it affects everyone and it affects your ability. Okay, it says wealth managers believe that this could spook investors in the US, and that could move money towards emerging economies, which includes markets like India. Now, pay attention to that because this is where this matters, and this is where the nefarious nature of this stuff comes out. Rich people, as I explained in the beginning, have lawyers and they have accountants. Very highly paid lawyers and very highly paid accountants that know the laws, that can dig through the laws, that have the time, that understand the legalese, and can find all the loopholes that you, the little person, might never find. Now, there are some little people who find the loopholes. I know many people who do research, and they research to the nth degree, and they take a lot of time, and they're not lawyers and they're not accountants, and they find the loopholes, they find all the stuff, but it is painstaking and it takes hours of research and reading. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but I'm saying I understand if you don't have the time to do that. Many of us don't. Okay, so now let's read our article. Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary in the Joe Biden administration, has proposed a tax on unrealized capital gains. Capital gains tax is a tax on the profit that investors realize on the sale of their assets. If you sell shares that you own in a company and make a profit, when you sell them, you pay a tax on the profit. The current rate in the US excuse me, is up to 37% based on the asset type, period of holding, and income of the investor. Again, these are all things that if you were rich and you had lawyers and accountants, you can figure all kind of crafty ways within the scope of the law to get around all of this. Yellen, the former chair of the US Federal Reserve, that should ring off alarm bells in your head, wants investors to pay a tax on the increase in value of stock every year, even if it is not sold. Now, how they pull on your heartstrings is they always sell this as something they want to do to billionaires, because in your mind and in my mind, what they're hoping is we see billionaires and we think, oh, they have the extra income. None of this matters. We don't care. Yeah, do this to them. What you don't understand is this never stops at just the billionaires. Look into federal income tax. Look into how it started. Look into who was supposed to be taxed initially. It was allegedly, it was supposed to be a tax on people of a certain income bracket, and many people would be excluded from this. And now look at us now, all paying federal income tax. It never stops at just the rich, but that's how they pull on your heartstrings to get you to support something without paying attention. Okay, so it says, so if a stock goes from $100 to $150 a piece in a year, but you haven't sold it, you may still have to pay tax on $50 of a share where you haven't made a profit yet. That's tax on unrealized capital gains. So let me break it down to short and sweet. You buy a stock. Let's say you buy a penny stock. Let's say you paid $1,000 for this penny stock. Some years go by. Out of nowhere, one company buys the next. This penny stock goes from, something people don't even consider to all of a sudden this is a big stock. This is a big deal. And that penny stock is now worth $50 a share. Now imagine you're a little guy. You now have to pay taxes on that $50 a share. Well, what if at pennies you bought 1 million shares? Where are you going to get the money from to pay taxes on these unrealized gains? Remember, unrealized gains means you have not sold that stock yet. So all of that air quotes money you have is just in the stock market. You haven't taken anything out. Where are you going to get the money to pay the taxes on this? Answer, you're going to have to sell your stock. So what does that mean? Now, I don't know the details. I don't know if the details have been released. I didn't really go that far, but I want you to think about this. If you have to pay an unrealized gains tax, is that going to be coupled with the tax you pay on capital gains when you sell this stock? And if you don't already have the money on hand to pay for millions of dollars, right? And like I said, if you bought 1 million shares at a penny, and let's say it cost you $1,000, now that stock is worth a dollar a piece, right? You got 1 million shares at $1 a piece, right? You got 1 million shares and that stock is worth $50 now, right? So you got $50 million. You now have to pay tax on that $50 million. So several things. The only way you're going to pay that tax if you're a little person, right? You invested in this. You're not rich and this thing has made you rich. Well, now you have to sell that stock in order to pay this unrealized capital gains tax. So you have to remove yourself from that market. Let's say that specific stock goes up again and it's now $200. What has happened is they have now removed your ability for maximum gains. But this is not really about the stock market. And this is what I'm getting to. This is I will give the Biden administration this. People feel like Joe Biden is not really running the country. In many ways, I agree. Whoever's running the country, whether it's actually him or whether it's behind the scenes pulling the strings, the things they're doing, whether you like it or not, is very clever and it's very cunning. I'm gonna get to my point here. Just give me a second. Okay, so it says the unsold wealth of the super rich. Notice those when you hear those buzzwords. Remember, those buzzwords means they're pulling on your emotional ignorance. They use these buzzwords because they want you excited in a certain way to agree with what they're saying because you're like, oh yeah, the super rich, right? They've conditioned you to see that word super rich and automatically you have some kind of anger or animus toward this person that you don't even know. Okay, it says the unsold wealth of the super rich are often transferred to the heirs without a tax. I wouldn't call that a wealth tax, but it would help get a capital gains which are an extraordinarily large part of the incomes of the wealthiest individuals. And right now, escape taxation until they are realized. Now, notice that wording, escape taxation. If I've invested in something and I've not pulled my money out, I don't actually have that money. If you start a company and you say, hey, you're a millionaire, here's my idea, will you loan me $2 million? I will give you 5% return on that. Once my company get to X, you'll own 5% of the company. Let's say I donate that $1 million, and let's say that company becomes $1 trillion company. I now own a piece of that, but I don't have it until I take out that profit. So look at how they're wording this. The wealthiest individuals right now escape taxation until they're realized. How is that escaping taxation? You're not escaping anything. You haven't pulled the money out. It's not like you can spend these unrealized gains. Now, to some degree, and I do understand this, you can get certain loans, business loans or what have you, depending on your assets, whether they're liquid or not. And I understand that portion. But my point being, this is not money that you're literally walking around spending. But I'm going to get to something. Bear with me. And often they're unrealized in the death benefit from a so-called step up of basis. Yellen explained in an interview with CNN. First of all, the death tax is immoral. And what that is if at the time of my passing, I pass on great wealth to my children, when they receive that inheritance, they will now pay taxes on this inheritance that I myself have already paid taxes on. That is theft. Taxation itself is theft, especially in its current form. I'm not necessarily against doing things collectively for the public good, but I am against doing these things by force. Taxation is theft. Just wanted to say that one more time. Case the people in the back didn't hear me. Simply put, in the US, if a person sells an asset that she or he inherited, the cost of the asset for the calculation of profit is considered to be the price at the time of inheritance. That's usually a lot higher than the actual cost of the asset, and so the taxable profit shrinks. I'm gonna tell you something. I have no problem with people who amass wealth and use the laws we have on the books to pay as less taxes as possible. I have no problem with that. I'm gonna tell you why I have no problem with that. If there is a law on the books and you abide by this law, and this law gives you a loophole whereby you pay the very bare minimum of taxes, Can I blame you for taking advantage of a law that was passed by the House and Senate? That would be absurd, in my opinion. The Biden administration is looking to raise its tax revenue to fund a $3.5 trillion spending plan. And that's the ticket right there. This is the reason that they're looking for every avenue they can to get money from people. Be very wary when you hear these slogans like tax the rich. It is very unwise to assume that this is actually a tax on just the rich. The rich may be taxed, but you're going to be the one that feels it. Remember that. Yellen had first proposed a tax on unrealized capital gains in February 2021. Since then, many wealth managers from Howard Marks to Peter Malik, as well as many others, have argued that this may lead to more investments in markets outside the U.S. in a bid to escape the added tax. See, again, rich people, the wealthy who have accountants and lawyers, are not bound by the same restraints you and me, normal people, are bound by. So though they say this would be a tax on the unrealized gains of the rich, is actually not. It is a tax on the unrealized gains of the normal working people. All right, let's see. The says creative planning clients are holding 20% to 40% of their portfolios in foreign stocks, both emerging markets and developed markets, tilting towards the latter, he said in a podcast with Think Advisor. At a time when there are fears of a bubble in emerging markets like India, this move in the US could come as a big boost if spooked investors on Wall Street decide to move money to other destinations. It may be good for India, but tax is just one factor that investors consider before putting money in any country. The inherent growth potential and ease of doing business are considered before the tax implications. Now, I'm going to tell you what I truly think about what's going on here. I do not think this is about taxing the rich and the unrealized gains of the rich. That is not what I think this is about. Many of you know I've done videos about cryptocurrency. If you have not been paying attention to cryptocurrency, several things have been really moving very quickly within the cryptocurrency space. One of those things is called KYC, Know Your Customer. Many exchanges will not allow you to buy and or sell certain amounts until you load some kind of photo ID showing where you are. Certain exchanges don't allow people within the United States because of certain rules and regulations. They don't want to get in trouble with the SEC, which for those who don't know is the Security and Exchange Commission. Look into them if you don't really know what they are. That would be a whole nother podcast going into what they do or what they're supposed to do allegedly. But where is I getting at? Okay, yeah, the cryptocurrency space. Okay, so know your customer, KYC. Many exchanges, most all exchanges do this now, right? So if you want to buy and sell crypto, unless you're doing it on a decentralized exchange, such as Uniswap, PancakeSwap, and some other exchanges, but those are just the most notable of the decentralized exchanges. But when you want to move money in and out of this crypto space, you're gonna have to use things like Coinbase. There's other things you can use, but this stuff is tracked. They know who you are. They know your name. They know exactly who you are because you have to do KYC to be a part of these different organizations moving your money in and out. Cryptocurrency has allowed people to become millionaires overnight. people that invested $100 into a coin, $200 into a coin, $300 into a coin. In a matter of a couple months, they have 100 million, 10 million, 30 million, 50 million. A very small investment. So these are not rich people. What happens? What happens? I want you to think through this. What happens when the average person figures out that, wait a minute, so if I invest $100 into this and overnight I have 100 million, now I have to pay the government. I owe them taxes on money that I've not pulled out of the crypto market. So I've not pulled the money out yet. I don't actually have it. It's still in the crypto space. What would that force you to do? It will force you to actually sell your crypto in order to pay this tax. So you're either going to sell all of it and pay your capital gains tax and this tax on unrealized gains. And I don't know how they're going to do that. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know if it's going to be something they put together when you take the money out. I have no idea how that's going to work. But what I know it will do, once normal people find this out, normal people will say, well, I'm not going to invest in cryptocurrency because I don't want to get dinged by the IRS. Taxes scare people. Getting dinged by the IRS scares people. It's psychological. And the powers that be, they know this. Crypto terrifies banks. I've heard all the theories about crypto was really designed to be the one world currency. Now, don't get me wrong. Crypto may very well turn out to be the one world currency, but I do not believe that's why it's designed. It may move in that direction at some point. It very well may. I believe cryptocurrency scares these people because they have not figured out how to control this thing. It's like a wild animal. They can't get their arms around it. And everyday ordinary people are getting rich every day off of cryptocurrency. There's people who put a little bit of money, maybe $100, $200 into a coin, forgot about it, opened up their crypto wallets one day, and it's like, oh my goodness, I have $50 million. Where'd this money come from? They're now rich. What happens when a government now comes knocking at their door? Yeah, we're gonna need a cool 20 million from you. You owe us in taxes, 15 million, whatever it would be on that. You'd be like, wait, what do you mean? I haven't pulled this out of the market. Yeah, see, that's the thing. It went up in price. You now owe us money. That is going to discourage the average person when they hear stories of this happening to people, and you know how the psychological warfare works with the media. Once people hear about this happening to 1, 2, or 3 people, they're not going to get into the crypto market. People that have their money in the crypto market are going to pull their money out, sell all their crypto assets, pay their taxes, and be done with it because they're not going to want to deal with it. That's going to remove people from the crypto market. Remember what I said. What crypto is doing is it's providing. Crypto is the fastest track from poverty, from the first class or the lower class to the middle and upper class very quickly. If you don't believe me, just do a little bit of digging online. You'll run across many stories, true stories. There's people who invested, for those who follow the cryptocurrency space, there's people who invested a few $100s into Shiba Inu a year ago that are filthy rich right now off a couple $100s. If you don't think that they would love to discourage all of the normal people from getting into this so that they can get a hold on it, because financial independence removes your necessity to depend on the government, and that strips them of power. And I'm telling you, you may think this is a conspiracy theory. You may think this is far-fetched, but these people are threatened by your independence. And I hope you're paying attention. Y'all know what it is. Stay frosty, people.